Hey, call me Shape. And today we're reacting to a video titled Tracee Ellis Ross cries to Obama about being lonely and childless. Let's get right into it.
One of the reasons, I mean, we've talked about this, that often I date younger men. And a lot of it is because...
Let's stop on that, folks.
Oh my God, we had a great dinner. We had a great dinner, by the way, where across the table, your husband goes, "But why?" And I said, well, maybe because I can.
Yes, Parish. This is what I'm saying. Tales from Tracee's.
It's fun. It's really fun to share.
Tracee tales.
But
you date a younger woman.
But one of the reasons, though, that because I had to ask myself that question, I was like, what is this about?
Yeah.
Because I want a partner. And so often, and it's not just that I'm older, I'm also very embodied. I am a full, very whole person who knows myself, who is in charge of my life, and who lives a very full, just robust life. So it's not just age, it's like life experience and sort of a difference. But I had to ask myself the question, why? Why does this keep sort of coming up other than they're hot and gorgeous?
There's that.
There's that. But a lot of men my age are steeped in a toxic masculinity and have been raised in a culture where there is a particular way that a relationship looks. And anything that starts to smell of that for me, I did enough of it where I was controlled and felt like I was a possession or whatever those things were, or prize, and I have no interest in it, and I will not do it again.
I'm sorry.
No,
Craig.
I was going to say, it's a generational thing? So it didn't matter how you met them, or is it just kind of the guys you're meeting?
That's obviously
too big of a generalization.
It's a generalization, but because I have dated men my age, there is a difference. There is an openness that occurs with a younger man around whether it's gender fluidity or not even having an issue with homosexuality. I mean, something as basic as that there's times where I'll be sitting across the table from somebody and just like, what did you just say?
Yeah, what century are you?
Like, oh my God.
Where's your horse and buggy?
Yeah, like, I'm so sorry.
And your bedpan.
Yeah, for real.
Chamber pot.
Yeah, your chamber pot. Your chamber pot. Like, where I'm just like, yeah, this is not a match. And I have long been past the age where I feel like it's my job to teach somebody or grow them up.
Yeah.
That I'm not interested in. So, but it's interesting. I mean, there's so many different philosophies on dating, and I have come up with mine. I have come up with what works for me and what makes sense for me and what feels safe for me.
Yep.
I mean, like, I'm not on dating apps. I have friends that have great success with dating apps, but that's just not something I'm comfortable with.
So you're meeting folks in the wild then?
That's the only way for me, or someone sets me up, or I meet them at an event. I meet someone. It's usually people that also have a level of recognition that they have as much to lose as me to a certain extent. I don't know. I mean, I haven't had great luck lately, but I do have to say I'm moving up on what it is that I'm looking for as a match. Yeah. I've had some doozies. Yeah.
I'm here to say that you are the doozy, Tracee. You're the doozy. You're the doozy. Hollywood doesn't produce wives. They don't produce wives. They produce Jezebels. Right? And it's interesting that she's openly mocking God in public. And she doesn't see the correlation between her life and the fact that she's openly mocking God. Right? Like, what century you are. Like, she says that she can't date older men because they're not gender fluid. What? We didn't even know what gender fluidity was. What I still don't know what the hell is that? Right? And in an earlier video I made was reacting to where women are blaming the red pill. The red pill corrupted all these men. Well, these older men never had the red pill, so how could they be corrupted? Right? So aren't the younger men corrupted by red pill? But then she says she dates younger men because they're gender fluid? Clearly not red pill men, right? And I find it fascinating. Here is a woman who, and I'm going to be very honest with you, I find her attractive. She has an amazing body. If you don't know anything about Tracee Ellis Ross, she got an amazing body. I mean, that boot thing behind her, she got a large rump, okay? She got a lot of junk in the trunk. And she seems like a lovely woman. But she's been corrupted by Hollywood to believe that life is about your choice, right? They titled their video, Being a Choiceful Woman. Or a woman that leans towards death, right? Because when they talk about pro-choice, they're talking about pro-death, right? There's not pro-life and pro-choice. It's pro-life and pro-death, right? And her choice matters. The choice of the unborn child doesn't matter. And this is the chaotic things that women believe if they were seduced by Hollywood about being gender fluid. And how dare you speak against homosexuality? How dare I? Because it's unclean. To put your penis in a man's ass is unclean for you and the man that you put the penis in. Respectfully. If you want to be homosexual, you can be homosexual. I don't hate you. I might not like your behavior, but I don't hate you. I get along with homosexual people, you know what I'm saying? In fact, I don't look at people as homosexual, per se. But this idea that we can't speak against their behavior because it's not the right thing to do, because the culture and the religion of the politically correct, that's a religion, by the way, to be politically correct. Hey, how dare you say that? That's not politically correct. But what is if it's biblically correct? What if it's biblically correct? What about that? But a lot of women, they have detached themselves from the Bible because they figured they could become their own gods. And this is the chaos that they make. But the reality is, whether you believe in God or not, if you go against biblical structure, you're going to end up like Tracee Ellis Ross. So how many women want to become rich and famous and lonely and childless like Tracee Ellis Ross? I'm really curious. How many people want to waste their opportunity to have a fabulous life with a husband because you want to be Tracee Ellis Ross? I'm really curious.
It is that I'm looking for as a match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had some doozies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just, I just love watching your life because you were modeling so many things, the next phase, how many versions of ourselves we can become at all ages in life, you know, and how to build the life you want.
Yes.
Not the life that somebody told you were supposed to have. And let me tell you, I told you this about the girls, and Tracee, just like, you know, she mentors the girls. She's always there for them. But trying to make sure that I am not subconsciously sending them these messages about what their life should look like. Even like when you ask, are you dating anyone? I mean, that's something that we ask young people in their 20s, you know, the whole thing about weddings, you know.
We talk a lot about that.
Yeah, it's just like the pre-proposal and the bachelorette and the pre-honeymoon and then the 3 wedding dresses and you know, have you thought about
the amount of money,
your 32 list items of who you want to marry, or are you more busy picking out your photographer?
Yeah, it's interesting, that whole, I hope that is starting to dissipate culturally.
So.
I really do. I think social media is perpetuating some of those things in a really big way. But I did dream of my wedding growing up. And that's not to say that I didn't dream of the bigness of my life, but I could have spent a lot more time dreaming of my life. And you know, as much as grief does surface for me around not having children and not having a partner, I still wouldn't want the wrong partner.
That's a great point for people to hear.
I'm not interested in that. You have to make my life better. It can't just be, you know, I'm in a relationship to be in a relationship. So
But who does an old woman make their life better? How does an old woman improve anyone's life, especially if she's an old, corrupted woman that believes in the chaos of the Hollywood dream is right? I should have dreamed about my career, not my wedding, not being married. She said children and a partner. You know, it's funny because, you know, if I read the Bible, I never find the word partner in the Bible. In fact, what I see in the Bible is husband and wife. I never run into the word partner. Where does this partner term come from? Oh, I'll tell you what. It comes from the cultural, hypnotic society mechanism that tells people that everyone's the same. We're all ambiguous. We're all gender neutral. And there's birthing people. There's not really mothers. Just birthing people. This is chaos. This is really a religion. People call me religious. Baby, this is religious, right? Religion's for people that don't believe in God. She doesn't believe in God, so therefore, religion tells her she could assume the role of God, determine what's right and wrong for herself or others. Where God, you have to obey by His order. So hard, because women don't want to obey orders. They don't want to follow orders. In fact, the only orders they follow is the Hollywood orders that says, you're a woman, you're free, and people try to oppress you, and don't tell you, even though you're 52 years old, you're still a great woman, and someone wants to partner with you. Why would a young man, so you say you don't date older men, right? Why would a young man partner with an older woman who can't give them children? Other than to use you as a sugar mama. Other than, All you could do with Tracee Ellis Ross is clap her cheeks. That's all you could do as a young man. I get it. As a young guy, I get it. Young men are going to smash Tracee Ellis Ross. She's getting smashed. But you can't produce anything with that. So Tracee can't give you kids unless I don't know if she frees her eggs. My assumption she didn't. I don't know. Maybe she did. And therefore she could have in vitro. But it'd probably be very dangerous for her to carry her own pregnancy. So she's going to have a surrogate. Either way, she has to do all this weird interventional medical intervention in order to have children, where most men want to see their wife naturally pregnant. If you're a well-to-do man that has something to lose, why would you waste your life on a woman that wasted her life? Like, she's not she might be a nice woman, right? And a lot of liberals are nice people. They're genuine people, but they're people that are unguided. And they're severely arrogant, narcissistic people that believe, oh, we're living in modern times, and modern times says this. And I said she mocked God earlier, right? You heard me say that, right? They mock God by saying, what century are you from? What century are you from? Because we should just disregard everything from our ancient ancestors, even though everything you see is God. If you live in a house, that is an example that God exists. Why? Because God is order. A house is order, right? This is why we walk on floors and look out windows. We don't look out floors and walk on windows. People say, oh, that's old. That's old. That's from the past. Well, look, humans have been walking on their feet since the past. They still walk on their feet now. I don't see humans walking on their ears. Oh, this is modern time. We don't walk on our feet anymore. We walk on our ears. I don't see people eating with their ears. Oh, this is modern times. We eat with our ears now, right? When people get hungry, do you see them start shoving food through their ear? No. Why? Because humans don't eat through their ears. And I know this sounds so simple, but this is the proof that as much as the technology that we have around us change, our tools change, they change to do the same thing we want them to do, which is serve us. And us, we can only be defined by what we were designed for, our purpose. And we know the purpose of your ears are not to eat, it's to hear. And we know the purpose of your feet are to walk, is not to hear. You don't listen with your feet and walk with your ears, right? It's common sense. And when people talk about it, it's like, oh, well, science and science and science. My friend, science proves the existence of God, and I'll show you how. I'll show you how, okay? There is a law in physics that's called entropy. What does entropy mean? Entropy means that first of all, entropy is the measurement of how much disorder is in a person, place, or thing. Right? So the high entropy is high disorder, low entropy would be low disorder. And science says, in their law of entropy, says that things move from orderly to disorderly, right? Over time. If you took a brand new car, right? That brand new car, the engine is going to have the most order when it's brand new. Over time, with use, is going to get more disorderly. Things are going to start to break down. Relationships, strong relationships over time break down eventually. A deck of cards, right? When you get a brand new deck of cards, it's wrapped in plastic and it's organized and it's orderly based on suit and based on numerics, right? The numbers and the suits, organized. The minute you start to shuffle the deck, it's no longer ordered. In fact, you will never be able to shuffle a deck into order. You don't have to take it apart and organize it yourself. And this is life. Life doesn't naturally organize itself, right? The pyramids didn't build themselves. So I say this to say that God is order, God is structure. Satan is chaos, Satan is disorder. And women are out of order. They're not following God's order. They believe that God's order is old school, doesn't exist anymore. Let me tell you something, man. I'm going to say it like this. You guys can see this, right? If I stack this on top of itself, and I made a pyramid out of this, right? If I stack, because this is Vaseline, right? And so imagine this is like building blocks. Let's imagine if I don't have 3 Vaselines here, but imagine if I stack 3 Vaselines on top of each other to make a building block. If you ever seen that in the wild, would you say that just happened on its own? That I just threw Vaseline out of a car and it landed into a pyramid? Or did you say someone organized it that way? Because disorder suggests that when people say, oh, the Big Bang Theory and God doesn't exist, what they're suggesting is that there's a pile of bricks organized 4 feet high on the floor, right? And the way it got like that because someone was driving by in a truck and threw bricks out of a truck. And it landed in a pyramid. Does that make sense? Or does it make sense that people organized and made the pyramid that way? That there was intention, that there was a system, that there's a plan, right? And that's exactly what God is. Intention, system, and a plan. But women are chaos. Women don't want an intention, system, and a plan. They want disorder, freedom to do whatever they want, whenever they want, and they are their own boss. So I say this again. We don't walk on windows and look out of floors. Right? We walk on floors, look out of windows. That's godliness. Structure, order, and a plan. And what's God planned for women like this? To be exactly where they are, grieving, crying to Michelle Obama that she don't got no kids and she's lonely.
The grief does emerge and that comes and I hold that. I think of what I've done and I woke up every morning trying to do my best. I didn't wake up one morning and be like, I'm going to mess this day up.
That's right.
So I must be where I'm supposed to be. And I don't know. Sometimes I think of all of the things I've done, the courage that I've had to have and what I've had to learn how to navigate as a single person with no one to hide behind.
Yeah.
And it's built a really beautiful experience around me. And I have incredible friends.
You do.
Well, this is a good segue to get to our question.
Let's do
especially the talking about dating and meeting people. And we have a great question. So Natalie, our producer, is going to read the question for. Make sure your mic works over there. Is it working?
I think we're good.
All right.
Yeah, we're good.
I'm excited.
Hi, Michelle and Craig. My name is Ronan and I'm 41 years old. I've got a question about that big, frustrating topic, dating. More accurately, I should say, how not to date. Let me explain. Throughout my 30s, I was in and out of relationships. One was very fruitful. It lasted several years, but in various respects of our lives, the timing just did not align, so we ended up splitting up. Since then, I've found myself in relationships that have been very clearly unsuccessful. One woman's creative and professional interests totally matched mine, but we fought constantly. Then I was with a woman who was great. Our leisure interests were similar. Her family was great, but I was just not that into it. Something was missing. Most recently, I ended up in a longer-term relationship that my friends at least would call toxic. We had great chemistry, and I was really in love with her, but she struggled with sustained intimacy after a recent divorce. And as a result, I got myself caught in a pretty regular cycle of hurt. Since then, my dating has been a mess. I've been distracted by women I simply find attractive, but who otherwise clearly are not a match. And in the meantime, I still find myself thinking about my last relationship. So this brings me back to the start of my question. My closest friends are telling me the one thing I need now is to not date. They tell me if I can figure out how to be happy on my own, I'll have a better chance of finding happiness with someone else. The thing is, I am not totally convinced by this. I enjoy dating, but I also understand that what I'm doing clearly is not working. So what in the world would you say to a guy like me? Are my friends right? Should I try to enter into a period of being single by choice? How could I actually benefit from being single if I ultimately really want a partner and family? And if it is helpful, what tips do you have to help me put this period of non-dating into practice and to make it stick? Thanks for your advice, Ronan.
It's a great question.
Yeah. And it's interesting coming from a 40-ish man.
Yeah, I like it.
Because men can marry when they choose to, just like
Well, yeah,
you did.
I thought that was so interesting what you said. When you asked Craig that question, I think it's timing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That when a guy feels they're ready, then who's
They
in
just
front of you.
pick. Right.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So crazy.
It is crazy.
And then it
Just
takes
like-
your second marriage to figure out
Yeah.
you need to be discerning.
And for
Yes.
some people, like
I
they
know,
don't,
I
or
know.
fourth, or they never figure it out.
I know.
Yeah.
It's just
I know.
like
I know.
Fascinating.
My technique for the second one, I thought was pretty good.
I think that is really, I thought that was
Yeah.
really helpful for other people to hear. The other thing I'm curious is that cultural that men, it's timing? Or is it, I don't know, it's just nature or nurture?
Yeah. I think a lot of it is cultural, right? We grow up waiting to be chosen, you know? At the school dance, you don't get to dance, or at least in our generation, you didn't get to dance if somebody didn't ask you to dance.
And then if you are the chooser, then men are like, you're aggressive.
Oh my gosh, there wasn't any choosing.
Well, now for my generation.
Yeah,
I don't even know my generation. For me.
Yeah.
Can I give you just a little
Please.
bit of a different thought process behind it?
That's why you're here.
Imagine as a 17-year-old
Mm-hmm.
and you're walking into a sock hop, which I just use for effect, but a dance,
but there are a lot
party.
of kids going, what is
What's
that?
a sock
What are
hop?
your
I
socks
know.
have to do with anything?
You go, but we used to have these sock
It's a
hops,
school
or it's a
dance.
school
Okay.
dance. So imagine you're 17 years old and there's a bunch of girls in there, and you go ask somebody to dance, and they say no, thank you.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
And then you go to ask the next person, and they say no, thank you.
Oh, no, I don't like this.
But that's how it was.
Yeah, that's hard. That's very
how
hard.
it was.
Mm-hmm.
So the question you have to ask yourself as a guy is, do I just take what I have, or do I take the chance of asking the next person and they say no?
Yeah, the courage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
That's
real.
Yeah,
That's real. So
it's an important perspective for sure.
Yes.
And it is hard, but ultimately you choose, right? It's scary, but so imagine the girl who is standing in the same sock hop with her shoes off now, all embarrassed because she's standing in her socks.
See what I have to put up with?
Mm-hmm. I have 4 siblings.
Waiting to be asked, and people are just passing her by, and there are a bunch of shy boys not even trying.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a guy can decide that the decision is still a man's to make.
Right.
Not, is it though always? I just think culturally that is what we say. Yes.
I think culturally,
Yes.
that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
The original question was,
Yes.
is it nature or nurture? I think a lot of it is the culture that gives that power
I agree.
to men. Now, it's a difficult power to have because with power comes responsibility and hurt and risk and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But, even to this day, as you said, Tracee, if a woman crosses that dance floor to ask, she's aggressive. It's an unattractive quality. So now I either wait to dance or I don't dance at all.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Okay.
And I also would say, as a boy or a young man, if a woman walked across the floor and asked me to dance, it was no way I was going to say no.
Well, I think obviously there's all different kinds of people.
Yes.
There's all different kinds. I mean, and then we're not even entering into the gender fluidity within this conversation.
Absolutely. You're right.
That is so much a part of what the younger generation is making sense of. And I think they're actually doing that really beautifully.
I do too.
And I've learned so much from the gender conversation and how it's expanded. I've learned so much about myself.
I can't listen to this anymore. This is chaotic. This is not entertaining. Why did a 41-year-old man call in to ask the opinion of a woman who's unsuccessful? You know how I know she's unsuccessful? She thinks she's successful because she's famous and she got awards and she got money. I think you're unsuccessful if you don't do what you were designed to do. If you have a purpose in life and you don't live out your purpose, you are unsuccessful. In some ways, a single mom of 6 is more successful than Tracee Ellis Ross. How do I know? Because at least she became a mother. Right? And she was designed to be a mother. I think to have a womb and not to use your womb and to misuse your womb is an absolute sin. And sin is an archery term. It means to miss the target. But it doesn't mean miss the target as you overshoot it or you know what I'm saying? It means to fall short of a target. Tracee Ellis Ross fell short of the target. Therefore, she sinned. Therefore, she missed it. Therefore, she cannot be successful. It's by definition. But if you live in your own definition of gender fluidity and you can kind of create these things and make things up as they go and how many pronouns and how many genders, there's 400 genders. If you try to do this type of thing, none of it starts to make sense. In fact, a lie is so complicated, but the truth is so simple. The truth is simple. It can be summed up in a few words, in a few pages. Not that many pages. It's a lot of truth, but 1,000 pages, 1,700 pages, you could sum up the truth. Now, some Bibles are small. This is a large text Bible. Shout out to the King James Version of the Bible, Holy Bible. Got it. Love it. I'm happy with it. But the reality is this. if you're not bound to anything, if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for everything. And people who are gender fluid and this, they don't stand for anything other than their chaos. So they fall for everything. It's confusing and it makes no sense. And this is why Tracee Ellis Ross is here. And I don't want to start talking about the Obamas or Michelle, but her brother looks a lot more feminine than her. And I'm not surprised that girls didn't say yes to him when he asked her to dance. I don't think Tracee Ellis Ross would dance with him. I'm just saying. Right? And I want to just talk about one thing really quickly. The guy that was 41 years old that can't call and ask for advice. I was kind of waiting for them to give the advice. They never gave the advice other than it can't be understood. And that's why you don't take advice from women. This is why the Bible said never usurp, or that women should not be able to usurp authority over men. It says it in the Bible for this exact reason. But he's trying to say is how he liked the girl and things were really well. She came from a good family, but something felt like it was missing. And then he fell in love with this really toxic girl, but he really loved her. My friend, this is why you can't trust your heart, because your heart loves toxicity and it hates structure. This is why you can't trust your heart. And you got to be very suspicious of a man that's in his 40s asking a never married, never had children woman for advice on dating. You just gotta be crazy. Anyway, like the video, subscribe to the channel blowing up. I appreciate you guys. Check out some of my other videos, and I'll see y'all over there.